Hello and welcome to Stateline. I'm Josephine Cafagna. The federal government has urged the Victorian government to step in to help resolve a clash between scientists and the board of management at the Australian synchrotron. Federal Innovation Minister Kim Carr says he's concerned about the ongoing dispute, which has seen some advisors resign and scientific staff take industrial action. A meeting today between the chair of the board, Catherine Walter, and scientists failed to resolve the issue. Cheryl Hall reports.
It's an interesting experience when you leave as the boss and you come back as one of the scientific users. The first thing I noticed is it is a lot quieter.
Professor Robert Lamb was the director of Australia's largest scientific facility and one of its most important. He's now back, using what he describes as the world's most perfect beams of light for his own research at Melbourne University. But he's still struggling to understand why he was escorted from the building in October and not allowed to talk to his staff.
We were about to talk to the staff about all the exciting things that had happened over the past year. It was our summary party, as it were. The chair of our board and another member of the board had scheduled to see me an hour before this talk. They simply said that my secondment had been ended and that I was free to return to the University of Melbourne and take up my role there again.
So what was your reaction?
Well, it was shock.
A month later, the chair of the Synchrotron Scientific Advisory Committee, Professor Frank Larkins, and 5 other members resigned.
Our international members basically gave the message that their time was precious and they did not see that there was merit in continuing, and I lament that very much because we will not be a world-class facility unless we have world-class people and world-class support.
Their complaints were aimed at the synchrotron's board and its chair, Catherine Walter. In a letter of resignation, Professor Michael Grunz said the lack of confidence and trust by the board in the advice presented by the SAC is unprecedented. This is a situation for which the chair of the board must accept ultimate responsibility. In another letter of resignation, Mr. Soichi Wakasuki describes his time on the SAC as the most distressing period in his career in the synchrotron radiation science over 25 years. Another member, Ted Baker, expressed similar views but decided not to resign.
The advice which has been fed in over 2 years to the board about planning for the future, new beam lines, new money for operating, creating the environment to retain and attract even more good people, that advice has not been acted upon.
3 weeks ago, the board appointed 4 new members to the Scientific Advisory Committee, replacing those who resigned. But Professor Larkins, the former Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Melbourne University and advisor to the state government on the synchrotron, says the rift between the board and the staff scientists remains as wide as ever.
Since the end of November, from the point of view of the Australian synchrotron science community, that in fact things have deteriorated further, and we're certainly now not meeting world's best practice.
In what way?
Well, in terms of the productivity of the output from the synchrotron, in terms of the staff, we have staff who are working to rule and still have a whole list of grievances that seem to have escalated rather than diminished, and we're now seeing some of the very best staff actually leaving.
For the last 3 months, electrons have been spinning around the synchrotron 24 hours a day, but the beams of light have only been used to capacity for part of that time. The 30 PhD scientists who work there have voted to work to rule from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday.
What that effectively means is that after 5 o'clock you're on your own. A lot of activity goes on in the evenings. We don't go to sleep. The light is always running, so we're always there using the light to do our experiments. I just thought that it was amazing how quiet the place was. I left just after midnight last night, and there was about 6 or 7 people in the entire facility. And my recollection of how these things run, 2 people were running the machine, 1 person was guarding the place.
The ABC has been told the board has received about 20 complaints from users of the synchrotron. Some have spoken to Stateline but do not want to be named. Scientists working here are also afraid to speak publicly for fear of being fired. When board members, including Chair Catherine Walter, met synchrotron scientists today, they were presented with a list of demands. Among them, that 3 eminent scientists be appointed to the board and that Rob Lamb's replacement as synchrotron director be endorsed by the Scientific Advisory Committee. Catherine Walter and the synchrotron board declined Stateline's request for an interview.
It really is in the hands of the state government to actually take action at this point in time because, again, the Australian synchrotron science community does not see any other avenue at this point other than the state government to take some action. And in fact, we have not been able now for more than 6 months to have a dialogue with the state government in relation to this matter.
Obviously the synchrotron is very dear to my heart, but the operational matters, the administrative matters, the management decisions, they are honestly matters for the board. They're not me to get involved in.
The federal government is about to start discussions about the future direction of the synchrotron and its funding after 2012. But it wants the dispute between the scientists and the board resolved.
It is of concern to us that there is this ongoing controversy. However, it is a matter for the Victorian government and the board of the synchrotron to work out their relations with their employees.
So are you saying that the state government should step in and do something about this dispute?
Well, that's a matter for the state government, but it is a state institution. The arrangements have been made and set up by the state government of Victoria. We have an interest in the welfare of a major piece of infrastructure in this country, as we do many others. But in the immediate period, it is a matter for the state government to resolve with people who work at the synchrotron.